There are certain things I do that may not be, can I say, talk hostish.
Well, you don't have the background in radio that, for example, Fowler or I have.
That's right.
You did, I don't know how many years Fowler did. I know I did 14 years of radio before I ever sat down behind a microphone to do a talk show.
And I think David, 17 years or something like that.
Something in the same neighborhood, yeah. Which makes a big difference in the way that you conduct yourself.
Now, there's something else. You and David and other professional talk hosts, you're able to be much more creative than I am on the air. I love some of the things you do. I mean, some of the oddball things and some of your music and all this kind of stuff. I really do. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And
it's called fear. That's what it is. It's fear of making a fool of yourself. So you make a fool of yourself to keep from making a fool of yourself.
And believe it or not, I've started listening to you. And there's one other thing I want you to know, and I said this to Mary either today or yesterday, I forget. I think it might have been today. I said to Mary, he's a very nice guy, and you're very lucky.
I know she told me tonight.
You can ask her.
Well, she told me already.
Okay. So, what I
said, she said your fingers were crossed, too, when you said it.
My eyes, maybe. All I'm saying, Robert, is this. I don't think for 1 minute that we should change our political ideologies or anything like that. But I do think we could change our personal relationship. And I'm on the air in front of your audience offering you a peace pipe. Not that we shouldn't argue on issues and so on, but that personally we could be better friends. I'd like that.
Well, it's not a peace pipe. Actually, you brought me a bottle of liqueur tonight. How do you pronounce this?
It's Ron Pope. What it is, it's really, yes, it's from Mexico. It's a delicious drink. I like it. I don't know if you will. It does have some rum in it, not a great deal, and it's rather like eggnog.
Did you hear the earlier part of my show tonight?
Yeah, before 8 o'clock.
When I made my admission that I had gone out this afternoon.
Yes, I did. I
came in here, half buzzed.
I could have brought
so you brought me a bottle of booze. You really want to finish it.
It really isn't. It isn't that boozy. I could have brought you Kahlua. And if you'd rather have Kahlua, I have some Kahlua from Mexico.
Oh, it's such a fine beverage. That's the problem with it. It tastes so good. Oh, Lordy and I have such a low tolerance to alcohol. What do you mean you have Kahlua from Mexico? I thought you didn't drink.
We have, over, I don't know, about a 12, 15-year period, I got 3 cabinets of booze, like you wouldn't believe. We don't drink.
Of course I'd believe it.
But it's gifts. It's mostly gifts from people. Mm-hmm. And from our family in Mexico and so on. And if you ever want to come and get cropped, you're welcome. We have it.
No, I don't do that often. This was a very rare occasion. I figured over a 2-hour period of time it wouldn't have any effect on me, but I came in here with my little head just spinning this evening, which is a terrible thing to have to admit, but I'd rather admit it than try to pretend as though it wasn't the case. And I did about $14 worth of cookies and pretzels during the debate to try to sop it up, and fortunately did.
Well, you sounded okay. No, you didn't have to say a word. No, you sounded your normal self.
Well, I was a little dim-witted.
You always sound a little sozzled,
I beg your pardon.
Sozzled, that's a good word. And guffaw?
Mm-hmm.
David's right.
I know he is. It's gaff is the proper term. But I believe in usage it has almost become acceptable, guffaw. But in terms of the dictionary, David was right.
Yeah,
So for once in 13 months. In 13 months, the man was right. Big deal.
Yeah. He's listening. You know that, don't you?
David, if there was a talk show on any place, on any station, any topic, no matter who was doing it, David would be listening. The man is a talk show junkie.
Do you want to invite some calls?
He listens to your show.
Do you want to invite some calls now? I
got a full board. I'll sit here with you.
I'm taking a chance because these are your listeners, Anti-Cole's listeners. So,
well, if you listen to my show, half the people that call me are your listeners. They hate me. That's
no,
the whole thing with my show.
I'm not sure the ones that hate you are my listeners. I don't have hateful listeners, hating listeners, I should say. But. Good evening, Tampa Bay.
You want to take calls? I got a full board.
Go on, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. St. Petersburg, you're on the air, WPLP.
Good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
I understand that Tim is there.
Yes, he is.
Well, I want to tell you, Tim is a very gracious gentleman. I don't agree with everything. Most of the time, I disagree with him.
I know I paid you to say something better than that, sir.
Oh, is that right, Tim? You recognize my voice?
I certainly do, yeah.
Yes, Tim. You know, I listened to the debate tonight.
Which one, the one between Coles and I, or Martinez and Paget?
No, it's between Martinez and Pageant.
Pageant? Everybody calls him Pageant. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He is a pageant, I agree with you.
But I want to tell you, it was a very tiresome debate.
Yeah, I know. I thought I was going to bruise my thigh sitting here slapping it, and guffawing.
That's right.
Yes.
And I'm not very enthusiastic about any of the candidates. However, I'm getting very weary of the liberal bashing that goes on. So I've decided that I have to vote against the anti-liberal candidate because, there's the implication that a liberal is a communist or a subversive, and I'm tired of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm real tired of it, too.
Yeah.
Real tired of it. It's totally unnecessary, and I don't think Paget said anything to make me want to vote for him tonight.
No, there's nothing special about him. There's nothing special about Governor Graham. But I'm tired of this. It's sort of a mudslinging thing. A person's convictions are his convictions. That doesn't make him a criminal or subversive.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes out that way when you listen to some of these guys. Anyway, that's the way it is. I'm going to have to vote against the anti-liberals.
Well, I wish I could have heard a lot more out of both candidates in the way of real issues. All I really heard out of Mr. Martinez was certifiable mudslinging, and all I heard out of Mr. Paget was that Mr. Martinez is against the homestead exemption, and, once, twice, maybe even three times would have been sufficient on that.
Yeah,
and then we got bogged down in this nonsense about, who provided the funding for a sewage treatment plant or a trash treatment plant or whatever it was. And, I mean, come on, who cares?
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago anyway.
What is this I hear about you taking the plunge? Are you getting married?
Yes, I am.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yes. Let me tell you something, sir. She is gorgeous.
Well,
I've known her for some time, and she is if I was single and at Bob's age, I'd be doing exactly the same thing.
Really, Tim? Well, I understand, Tim, that you have a beautiful, intelligent, talented wife.
Yes, I do.
Indeed he does.
And I'm very fortunate.
Yes. So, congratulations, Bob.
Thank you.
Knowing that you're from Philadelphia like I am, I can understand.
He's not from Philadelphia. That's a lot of nonsense.
Well, he's near,
right across the river. It's greater
right
Philadelphia.
across the river.
He's from Camden.
He's from the other side of the track.
Actually, I was born in Camden. I was born in the Cooper Hospital.
What does it look like now? The last time I was in Camden, it was a pretty dirty, lousy place.
Oh, it couldn't have gotten any worse.
It's
couldn't
still
have gotten any
same.
worse. I'm sure. I haven't been there for a number of years, but it just couldn't have gotten any worse. It was that bad. But in any event.
Well, anyway, Bob, tell Tim.
You tell him.
All right, Tim. I have a very high regard for you.
But?
Well, we disagree.
Well, what's wrong with that? I disagree with Bob all the time.
That's right. Okay, good night to both.
Tim's one of the most disagreeable men I've ever met. Take care. 9:48 the time. I told these people they should have run tape tonight. This was going to be an interesting evening. A line available. It's in Pinellas, 393-0057, St. Petersburg Beach. You're on there at WPLP.
Yes, good evening, Bob.
Good evening.
I understand that Tim Coles is going to be your best man at the wedding.
No, Rodney Hamilton will be. But Tim will be invited.
And I'll have some weird gift for them, sir. I'm trying to think of something weird.
Well, I watched the debate
How about a cigar box full of Krugerrands?
Well, I watched the debate tonight, and I observed the presidential rally. And you know that barrel that Martinez was talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I think they ought to take President Reagan, Paula Hawkins, Martinez and Tim Coles, stuff them in that barrel, and have a tractor-trailer truck run over them.
Now, why would you want to do that?
That's cruel and unusual punishment, sir.
Yeah, Paul is not that bad.
No, I put Tim in there first.
Me at the bottom of the barrel.
That's right.
I've been trying to climb out for years. But it's such a deep barrel.
Did he disappear? Is he gone? Guess he is. Hello. Oh, well, chickened out. What are you going to do, Tim? Oh, no, it doesn't. My goodness, don't even have to give out the phone numbers. Tell you what, let's take a break and we'll come back. Hi, Bob Lassiter. Gentleman Jim Knowles here with me this evening.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Just mellow out, Coles. Mellow out. I'll get my kazoo out and start playing Colonel Bogey's March.
Do you know I used to go to Shelley's Manhole at least twice a week? I lived in Manhattan Beach in California, just south of Los Angeles. And I used to go to Shelley's Manhole and used to go to jamming sessions in Redondo Beach at a place called the Lighthouse, where the musicians...
The Rowdy play there all the time.
That's right. The musicians would walk in, loosen their ties, and jam. It was really great. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I like West Coast jazz especially, and progressive jazz.
Want to go back to the phones?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, I have no idea what these people are, why they're here. It's Friday night, and Friday night is weird at this radio station. Tampa, your turn at WPLP.
Hello, Bob.
Hi.
That's a Friday night weirdo for you. Listen,
I would have it no other way.
Yeah. Tonight, I was totally pleased with the debate because Martinez's colors actually showed. I've been active as a Civic Association president and spokesperson for 5 years in the city of Tampa. I've been addressing very major issues as far as zoning, as far as flood control, and building violations, code violations, and trying to deal with that Martinez on a one-to-one basis is almost impossible. I found it ironic that he accused Pagic of hiding behind other people and not taking a stand. I challenge anybody. Well, it's a little late now, but when he was in city government...
Did he accuse Pagic of hiding behind other people? I thought he blamed Pagic for everything that's happened since 1942 on.
No, what he said was every time Pagic had to make a major decision, he would blame it. And the decision, let's say later, was one that did not turn out to be very popular. He said Pagic would hide behind someone else's influence.
May I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
As mayor of Tampa, what relationship would Martinez have to zoning?
Okay, I can give you a specific example.
Isn't there a zoning board?
Yes, but when it comes to unscrupulous builders finding loopholes and then having the support of the mayor to the demise of the neighborhood, I can give you the entire neighborhood as an example. We tried to meet when we realized that there was a zoning violation as far as a builder was going in an R1 area. We tried every channel possible to meet with the mayor. We had the largest crowd ever in the city council. All we asked for was the mayor present to ask some questions. Finally, after 6 or 7 meetings, he walked in, read a prepared statement, and walked out. That was the closest we could get to him. And it's so ironic, the builder that he supported so voraciously has since been thrown out of the home builders, it's HOW, the home builders endorsement. He's no longer allowed to build R1A housing in the city of Tampa. This is just one example.
Well, I don't want to take over Bob's show, but I don't see any relationship not direct relationship between the mayor and building codes. R1 is strictly residential, right?
It's more than that. It's residential with 60-foot frontage.
Yeah.
And the original plats in the city of Tampa are laid out in 30-foot plats. So when you buy a lot in Tampa, you're actually buying 2 30-foot plats. And this was resurrected by this builder who built the most horrendous homes in the middle of a really nice...
But you're saying that Martinez is in some way responsible. In cahoots.
No, I didn't. I never said that at all.
Well, then what's the point?
The implication is there, isn't it?
Okay, if we're dealing with implications,
well,
then...
I'm not dealing with implications. What I'm saying to you is he was the most difficult person to deal with. He was totally insensitive to the people. he was totally receptive to the builders. And it was just, it was really...
Well, Martinez is on record, and proudly so, from it's my understanding, saying that, business, commerce comes first, that that's what it's all about.
Sure.
So, why should this be any great surprise to you?
Also, well, it's no great surprise to me. To me, it was his personality that finally came through today. I think it was so important for the people to see that. I didn't even see it. I listened to it on WPLP, but I've seen it. I've been with him too many times. I know.
When you say his personality came through today, I'm not sure that his personality did come through. I know about his past. I know about his recent past. And a lot of the nonsense I heard out of his mouth tonight sounds to me like the type of thing that some type of consultant would have told him his constituency wanted to hear. A lot of tough macho talk, a lot of mudslinging. Again, he made almost the exact same accusation against Pagic that Hawkins did against Graham, implying that in some way that Pagic was directly responsible for the deaths of children in the state. This is tough talk. I don't know that we saw Martinez tonight.
Well, let me just make another point, then I'll set the line free here. He also was taking credit for the flood control program that he's initiated in the city. Mm-hmm. What he was referring to was the Tampa 2000 program. And he hit behind that. He made false promises to put in a park system in an area that was being developed without any control. I mean, to me, he represents rampant growth without any foresight. And the fact that he was hiding behind this flood control, we had to go down there and fight for this. And he makes it sound as though it was his idea. I don't know, it's just an abomination. He's an excellent politician as far as a politician goes and getting into office. He's a pro.
Caller, let me jump in at this point because I'm fresh out of time for this hour. And Tim, if you want to rebut from Mr. Martinez, I'd be delighted to give you a chance after the news, okay?
Okay, yes.
All right. We've got the CBS News coming up at the 10 o'clock hour. One more hour. My colleague, gentleman Jim Knowles, or Tim Coles, as he insists upon calling himself, here in the studio with me this evening, will continue following the news. Don't go far. After the hour of 10 o'clock, welcome back. Fourth and final hour for this Friday night. October 24th, 1986. A strange night it is. Last Friday, full moon. This Friday night, full house. Yeah, that's what we call it, a full house. Fowler on the phone earlier tonight. Cole's in the studio with me. I don't understand what is going on. Have no idea, but in any event, there is one line open. It is in Hillsborough County, which, of course, is a hotbed of liberalism, and you've driven away all of my Hillsborough callers, Cole.
Yeah.
That's 224-0057, 224-0057. Of course, the Pinellas lines, hotbed of conservatism, are full. Should be an interesting hour. You ready for some more calls? Wait a second. I did promise to give you a chance.
No, let's go to the phones. It really is the listener's show.
There is one thing I wanted to ask you, because I had tried to get in, got nowhere with it at all, and I know that you were trying. Did you ever get Martinez to come in?
I got from his campaign office that they would attempt. He's very busy, and they would attempt to get him in. They're on the phone. And by the way, he still may come on the phone with me.
Because I've been asking for him since, at least 6 months while he was still mayor.
Yeah.
I tried to get him and
Steve
Jose.
Steve Pagic already has been on with me.
A couple of times.
Well, at least once. I think I had 40 on and I forget.
I can understand.
At least once. And he promised me he'd come back on.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't so far. Paul Hawkins, we've got a tentative agreement for a telephone hookup. And Bob Graham, I think
I'll give you $50 if you'll let me have Hawkins.
Yeah, I can't.
I'll give
do
you
that.
$75 if you'll let me have Hawkins.
I can't do that.
$100.
I can't do it.
$200. $200 if you'll let me have.
You know.
We'll just switch that night, or switch that day. You come and do my show that night, and I'll come in and do your show that afternoon.
Yeah, I can't play those tricks.
$300, Coles. $300.
Promises, promises.
I've got my checkbook right here.
Yeah, the 300.
$500, Coles. If you switch with me that day.
To me, not that attractive.
$1,000, Coles, if you let me get my hands on Hawkins.
Keep going, Bob. No, can't do that. Can't play tricks.
St. Petersburg, you're on the air at WPLP.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
It's providentially you're both there today. I think I can renew both of your faiths in the political system.
Neither of us have any faith, sir.
And the value of mudslinging. But before I do, I just wanted to comment that it's a good thing that Tim's listeners are in bed, because if they knew he was trafficking in unpatriotic Mexican liqueur, they would never forgive him.
Well, hey, that's only half of the sin. The other half is that he's here.
I heard Bob.
Mexican liqueur?
I heard Bob this evening slander poor Paula.
The second thing, by the way, before I get into the more serious one, is I figured out a way to solve our trade deficit, and that would be to stop buying Russian weapons to send to the Contras.
Well, Bob was drinking black Russians this evening. How about that? Not only Russian, but black.
To renew your faith in mudslinging, gentlemen, about a month ago, on October 6th, Tim had the Republican candidate for insurance commissioner, Mr. Poole, on his show.
Van Poole, yes.
Yes. And that evening, Robert, I had spoken to you regarding something called the NARP, National Association of Retired Persons.
I remember it well.
Which is a swindle.
Yeah, I understand that. And as a result of the mudslinging and the political season, the senior citizens, especially of Florida, have benefited, at least in this area, because as of October 9th, NARP is outlawed. Diversified Health Services of St. Petersburg and National States Insurance Company are under investigation by the Commissioner's Office.
Is Mr. Gunter related to that?
Well, that's at least the allegation of Mr. Poole, and there is a tie-in between the three of them. But the point is, whoever is the commissioner, it's become such a hot topic that the commissioner on October 9th has outlawed the National Association of Retired Persons. Unfortunately, he hasn't disseminated the information to anyone so that the public isn't aware that if somebody comes to them purporting to be from this association, they're supposed to report it.
And now GIC is creeping into the political campaign.
Well, we should note, Tim, on that one, NARP mailed 1,200,000 people every 6 weeks, and the people thought they were dealing with AARP, and they were dealing with a company called National States Insurance that was buying leads from this lead service that everybody thought was the legitimate AARP. The point, of course, being that whoever wins, the people of Florida have already won on that particular race, because whether Gunter remains in or Van Poole unseats the incumbent, at least that particular ripoff on the public is no longer going to be tolerated.
You know, Van Poole said something to me which, in a way, is a little sad. He said, I don't have the money to do anything about Gunter. He said, I just don't have enough campaign funds. Isn't that sad in politics?
Yes,
it
indeed
really
it is.
bothers the heck out of me.
Indeed it is. When you look at the kind of money being spent on this gubernatorial and senatorial race in the state, whoa.
Yeah. I think if we all sit down and listen for a minute or two, one thing, that is, we can have a lot of fun talking about Paula Hawkins and Gunter, or we can talk about Pagic or Martinez, but none of them will affect our day-to-day lives as much as the insurance commissioner. That's money in our pocket every year. And no matter, even begrudgingly, you have to assume that if they're responsible politicians running for Senate and governor, that on most issues they're going to be pretty much the same, and they've got the checks and balances of 535 other Congress people and the state legislature and whatnot to deal with, while the commissioner directly affects a couple $1,000s a year in everybody's pocket between auto, homeowners, life, health insurance, etc. So that is the one race nobody ever looks at, but probably affects our lives the most.
Well, there are other things that affect us directly, and one of them, of course, is taxes. And and several...
One person doesn't make a difference, Tim, on this.
Well, but several Democrats have been talking state income tax.
But again, one candidate will not make that big a difference.
And I tell you, Bob, there's a question we should ask Mr. Padgett.
Well, I don't like a state income tax, but the fact of the matter is, and I'm certainly not proposing a state income tax by any stretch of the imagination, but the fact of the matter is that we are so far behind in the state in so many areas. We have a balanced budget by law in this state, and that's all fine and well. I have no problem with that. I'd like the pay-as-you-go way. It's the only way to run your government. It's the only way to run your household. We have just reached a point in the state where I don't know where else we can possibly tap, unless, again, we come back and do it through the real estate taxes and somehow funnel some of that back into the state.
We do have some untaxed commodities and services.
Well, that's true in the sales tax area, and yes, I'd like to explore that first, but I don't think that we should be all that ready to just scream and holler about a sales tax, because there are things that we need here that are not, butter issues. We need some bread in this state in the way of highways, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, for example, the Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services, which everybody is jumping all over, and rightfully so. They do, in many areas, a very poor job, but one of the reasons they do such a poor job is that their pay scale is so incredibly low that they have a constant turnover, in some agencies, 200% and 300% a year.
But where is the balance, Bob, between pay scale and dedication? You know, HRS is
but how dedicated can you be for $12,400 a year?
Well,
with a degree.
We do have a lot of people in this state who would probably qualify and would be willing to dedicate their time for that kind of money. There are 35,000 people in HRS. The budget right now, the last budget was what, a little over $16 billion with a B, $16 billion. It seems,
for HRS?
No, the total budget.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it seems to me, Bob, that to automatically go back each year for the legislature to automatically go back each year and say, how much can we increase this, instead of saying, how much can we trim it, how much can we get out of waste and all this sort of stuff and pay for a better HRS. They don't do it that way, so people get their backs up.
Yeah, but when you're talking about waste in HRS, a lot of the waste in HRS, and I'm not going to sit here and
I'm talking about the whole budget, Bob, not just HRS. DOT, terrible waste. Terrible. DOT is a disgrace, it really is. And you see, Mr. Bob Graham is not taking the blame. Nobody's laying the blame on Bob Graham for a terrible DOT, for a terrible HRS, and the buck really does stop there. He was governor.
Yes, the buck does stop there, and if he is to take blame, then the blame he should be taking is not for asking for more funds to get better qualified people. I know for a fact, I have a very close friend who also works in talk radio in Miami. He is an HRS employee. His department has like 180% annual turnover. A tremendous percentage of their cost is just in hiring and training.
Yeah. Well, something's wrong, isn't it?
And his people start with a college degree plus 1 year of experience at just a shade over $12,000 a year. Whoa. Nobody can live on that.
Well,
and that's why we have, 50, 60 kids dying a year under HRS.
I'm not quite that ready to jump in on nobody can live on that. Very often those people are married and there are two wages coming in, or they're single people and they can get by on $12,000. I could right now, I swear to you, right now, I could get by on $12,000 a year on my own.
Sure, your house is paid for, your car is probably paid for.
No, forget all that, Bob. No, renting, an efficiency, okay, buying my clothes and food and all the rest of it, I could get by.
Tim, I had an efficiency apartment that I just gave up. I paid $350 a month for it, which is just about average. And if you're talking...
Well, you still got $650 left.
Well, first of all, you're assuming that on that $1,000 a month that I'm going to get all of it, and I'm not going to get all of it. There are things, called taxes.
Well, at $12,000, you're not going to pay much tax.
Well, I'm going to pay 7.15% right off the top just for Social Security.
But everyone under $11,000, a little under $11,000, is going to be off the tax rolls anyway, Bob.
Yeah, but I'm still going to, lose at least 10% of it.
I mean, how would you spend the $650?
Well, first of all, it's not $600 because if I lost 10% of it to taxes, now we're down to $550.
All right. So first of all, your efficiency is too expensive. You've got to get one at $300.
Oh, what the hell? I have no shame. I'll go right down my budget. My car payment's $266 a month.
Well,
so now I'm down to $550. We'll round that off and call it $250. Now I'm down to $300 a month.
Obviously, at $12,000 a year, you go and buy a car which costs a total of about $200 to $300.
Buy a car that costs $200 to $300?
Yes, a lot of people do that. They have to because they don't have the money to buy a better car.
When was the last time you saw a car for $200 or $300?
I saw a car outside on our parking lot for $150.
Yes, but Gordon Bird bought for $200 and hasn't run a day since he bought it.
Well, but you know this well. What I'm saying, you can get into a car for $300. It's possible.
But the point is, Tim, why should somebody work for slave wages with a degree, with experience for the marvelous state of Florida? We should be able, willing, ready, and proud to pay a living wage. You ask for a living wage. I ask for a living wage. Why aren't state employees entitled to one?
Well, if you're flush with money, fine. You pay those taxes. I don't want to. Not in this case. I don't want to pay those taxes.
Well, I don't want to pay the taxes either, Tim. I'll be honest about that. I don't want to pay the taxes. I begrudge every penny they take out of my paycheck. But by the same token, there are things that an orderly society needs to have in order to function, and somebody got to pay for it.
Well, we have to lower our sights a little bit. We really do. And it's my belief, Bob, that we just can't go on throwing money at things. That's one of the problems. There have to be ways to do this. Either there's another way to do this. There are 35,000 people in HRS. If they could cut that to, say, 30,000 and give the remainder a pay that would, come up to the cost of the 35, then maybe that's the way to do it. You see, I don't know all the involvements, but it sounds to me like a huge department. They have 114 offices and 35,000 people. Now, if they could cut back and then give the people who remain more money, that's one way to do it, rather than increasing taxes.
Well, it sounds like a huge department, and it is a huge department. Unfortunately, it covers so many areas in other states. The Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services would probably be broken down into 3, 4, 5 agencies as opposed to just one. I mean, the Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services covers virtually everything in the state.
Especially little children who die, which is tragic, you will agree.
Of course it is.
And it's because of inefficiency, and the man in charge has to take responsibility.
Well, it is because of inefficiency to a certain degree. There are also people working in HRS that shouldn't be in HRS because they have such a hard time getting people.
How can that lady where the baby died, how can that lady be allowed to have baby foster children? I don't understand, Robert.
It beats me. It beats me. I don't understand either. And, the best I can do off the top of my head is to say that possibly, if we funded the department correctly, we wouldn't have to hire people like her. Possibly. Who knows? 21 minutes after the hour.
I'm messing up your show, aren't I?
No, you're not messing up my show. Not yet.
Don't wait another minute to buy a new refrigerator.
Because right now, America's bestseller sale is on at Sears.
There are 40 different Kenmore models.
All on sale.
And savings from $30 to $200.
Like our 18 cubic foot frostless refrigerator.
Now $499.99.
You save $40.
They're all Kenmore.
America's bestsellers.
With more innovation than you ever imagined.
But remember, this sale ends Saturday.
So what are you waiting for?
There's more for you
In our new century.
at Sears.
If your gasoline's not super clean, your car may start to run like this. Because many gasolines don't have enough detergent to keep your fuel injectors or carburetor clean and running smooth. But with new Phillips 66 Super Clean Unleaded and Super Clean Premium Unleaded, as little as one tankful can clean your...
Isn't this music much more together, Coles, than that stuff that you use? I'll let you borrow some of this.
That march, Bob, in my early years at the station became extremely popular. It really did.
Yeah, but that was back in the 20s.
Well,
Gotta get hip cold.
you're giving me too much experience, Bob. I haven't been on that long.
I'll help you select some new music. Let's take some calls. Go for it. You're on air, WTLP. Hello, go
I
for
agree
it.
with everything you say. 1001, 1002, 1003,
Bob, right.
Oh, man, I can't believe what I'm hearing tonight.
Why not?
I listen to you because I value you as, let's not use the word genius, let's say artist.
Oh, nonsense.
I'm not talking to you.
Oh, I thought you meant me.
Lassiter.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You hear how he said that? I'm not talking to you.
Tonight, I can't really believe. Now, I would have to guess. Now, I tuned in at 9 o'clock, and I've been hanging on here for a while. I can't believe the program that I'm hearing tonight. I value you as an artist in the line of a satire, Bob. A satirist.
Mm-hmm.
Satire is probably the highest form of art that exists because it's purely momentary and it deals with the abstract and all the rest of that crap that goes with it. I'm sure you're more aware of it.
It's really close to sarcasm, sir.
No, it's not, sir. And I wasn't talking to you.
Oh, shut up.
Be nice to my callers.
I would have to guess. I would have to guess that due to whatever was going on before I had tuned in, that management felt that you needed some backing up, and they put this clown in there with you to make sure that you didn't screw something up for them. But they couldn't be.
That's a pretty bad guess, caller.
Further from the truth.
That's a pretty bad guess, sir.
I'm sure it is.
No, actually, management has nothing to do with this, and if I know management, and if they are listening to this, they are sitting at home with their fingers crossed, holding their breath, saying, "Oh my God, please let the show be over."
You know, like I dig Lighthouse Jazz and Howard Rumsey and Buzz Shank and all them people too, but there also is Kansas City and Chicago and New York, not to mention New Orleans, you know. But you know, all that notwithstanding, your show has not been a satire tonight, and that's what I listen to you for. I don't know what other people do.
Well, look, Bob has variety, sir.
Not you, Bob Lassiter.
Yeah, he has variety. It's called variety.
He has artistry.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
Man,
did it ever, sir, did it ever dawn on you that perhaps by allowing Coles to come in here tonight, I was putting him and my audience on?
Yeah. Well,
Could be.
add me to the list then. Add me to the ingredients.
You mean you're put-onable?
Huh?
Huh?
Platonable?
Put-onable. He said he was putting you on.
Quote, honorable.
Careful. Fowler will be on the phone in a moment or two.
No such word, right?
Oh, really? O'Reilly.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. Yes. Come on now.
What are you expecting, sir?
I was expecting Bob Lassiter's satire, putting on these people of the Tampa area here, where they were sitting there talking back like they were really involved with something that was, you know, and he was, you know, on their side and stuff, and they were talking this, and, you know, the whole thing is put on, and the satire of exposing one's follies and vices through wit, the art form that is Bob Lassiter, not replaceable.
It's getting repetitious, isn't it?
Well, I'm enjoying it.
Oh, of course you are.
Thank you, caller. I'll try harder on Monday, I promise. I swear to you.
Maybe he'll call you next week and really explain that.
Let's take another call. This one is from Bel Air Bluffs. Hi, Bel Air Bluffs.
I agree with everything you say, Bob.
Thank you very much, Bel Air Bluffs. Let's go on to St. Pete. Hi, you're on the air, St. Pete.
I would like to mention, I had heard on another station something about Steve Padgett. Now, not very much is known about the background of Martinez, but this elderly librarian who is retired in Tampa, she's 84 years old, said she had known Steve Padgett as a little boy, and his mother's family. He has many relatives. His mother's family was very large, and she had married a carpenter Steve Padgett's father was a carpenter, and he was not able to go through school, and he had attended college and law school entirely on scholarships. And I think a man like that, even though he hasn't too much experience, deserves a chance. There's nothing that Martinez has to offer. In fact, the previous caller, just a way back, had really confirmed what I had been thinking. It just brought it out very clearly. And in fact, the Republicans don't have much to offer at all. I was at with a group where Dorothy Sample was speaking to elderly people, and she was trying to encourage them to vote for the change in the homestead exemption. And from what I've heard about that change, many of the elderly people would lose their homes from taxes.
I don't think so. Obviously it's going to cost them a little bit more, but they're not going to lose their homes from it.
Well,
it's going to be an increase in their taxes.
You're talking perhaps $50 to $100 a year.
Right.
And it might hurt some people on fixed incomes, but it's not going to put thousands of people out of their homes. I doubt it very much.
Well, there was a case mentioned of a lady in one of the counties here in Florida where that change in the homestead exemption, I'm not sure whether it's Florida or not, but the change in the homestead exemption had been put in effect. And this lady had...
Well, first and foremost, the homestead exemption has long outlived its usefulness. It was put back in, I believe, in the 1930s. It was done so at a time of great economic depression, not only in the nation, but in particular in Florida. And it was done to encourage people to come down here. That's the last thing in the world we need to do, is to encourage people to move to Florida right now.
And at that time, by the way, Bob, it was unconstitutional, because you had to be here 5 years to qualify.
Right.
And the state Supreme Court threw that out finally. Yeah.
Well, really, relatively recently.
Yes.
I believe it was still 5 years when I arrived in the state of Florida, 6 years ago. Thank you, caller. Appreciate. Line available in Vanilla is 393-0057, 393-0057. Lutz, you're on the air at WPLP.
Hello, Bob.
Hi.
What's this I hear you're getting married?
Well, that's true. Not to Coles, though.
Hopefully, no. Incidentally, since you mentioned it, push the mute button on Coles, would you? Anyhow, when's it going to happen?
That I'm not telling. It is a couple of months away yet, but even though the news has gotten out, we have not even told the people here at the station when it's going to.
He hasn't even told his dog, sir.
Now, there are some things that, when you work in broadcasting, as I do, you are a public figure, and there are things that might not otherwise be public for mere mortals.
Well, this is true, but...
Finally, at the close of the show, I select the wine and do it there.
I know nobody, Bob, who knows more ministers than you know, of one kind or another, so you could have them all in.
Well, yeah, but think of what a whale of a show that would make if you had it on the air at your ceremony.
Well, somehow the information got out. We were stunned when the information got out, because we thought only one other person knew. Were we wrong?
Coles must have sniffed that one out.
You're invited, Bob, to get married on my show.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
And you were drinking Black Russian, huh?
Oh, yes. Please don't bring that up again.
I was just going to suggest you finish it off with the Moscow Mule.
Oh, I tell you, those 3 Black Russians almost finished me off tonight.
Well, that Moscow Mule, that'll do it.
I've never had one of those.
Well...
I'd like to keep it that way, too, I think.
Get the recipe from Tim. He knows how to fix them.
What was that?
A Moscow Mule.
Never heard of it.
Moscow Mule.
It's got to have vodka in it.
Yes.
Vodka, yes.
You look in your book, and the recipe's there for Moscow Mule. Fix him one of those, and that'll fix him.
I didn't even know he was broken. Thank you, caller.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye-bye. Line open in Tampa, 224-0057. This whole thing is getting out of control. 10:35 the time.
You know, if you could look at your teeth through a microscope, you'd be shocked. Instead of
10:37 the time. I'm Bob Lassiter with you until 11. Joining me in the studio tonight, I do not know why guy, gentleman Jim Knowles, who works under the name Tim Coles right here in the afternoons between, 1 and 4, I guess it is?
At this time of the evening, how do you expect me to remember something like that?
See, a man that doesn't even know what time of the day he is on sits here and gives you political advice. I've been warning you people about this man for a year now. When are you going to catch on? Tampa, you're on the air at WPLP.
Yeah, one thing I'd just like to say is Jim would never sell you the rights to interview Paula Hawkins on the air because she could never really take the pressure of any serious questions, and a true Paula Hawkins fan would never offer somebody of an opposing view the chance to even interview her.
Well, let me give you a serious response to let me take that seriously for just a moment. I would not give Paula Hawkins a very easy time, believe me. Even though, no, I'm serious. I'm serious. One of the first questions I would ask Paula Hawkins, and if I get her on, you'll see. One of the first questions I'm going to ask her is, does she have any interest whatsoever in any issues aside from the 3 she's been pushing?
Yeah, but she'll sit there and pound the desk and say, and half of the cocaine is coming from Bolivia, and you go on to another question.
No, I don't. You haven't listened to me doing interviews. When I ask a question, I want the answer.
Oh, I don't know. I particularly enjoyed the interview that you did. I think it was with Harry Johnson. I enjoyed that interview immensely. It's my favorite Tim Cole show. If I could get a tape of that, I'd play it over and over and over.
You mean he took off on me?
That's one way of phrasing it. He was prepared for you.
Yes.
Oh, he was prepared for you.
He was very good, but he didn't win, did he?
I thought he... Oh, I see. Well, so he lost the election, but he won your show that day. Yeah, that's probably...
I agree with you. I agree. He was excellent. I agree with you.
He was a good guest.
Yes, he was.
Most politicians aren't, but he was lively and spirited and didn't take any guff and gave some.
By the way, so was Steve Padgett.
I didn't hear your interview with Padgett, I must admit.
He almost sold me. He was very bright, cheerful, and he's intelligent, and he sounded great.
I have to admit, I went to the rally today and was pretty much a Bob Martinez man until I saw the interviews tonight.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yes, I am. And Padgett came across very, very well on TV. Not only the substance of what he was saying, but also his delivery.
But he doesn't stand a chance, sir. Especially if Smith joins in the Martinez campaign, he really doesn't stand.
Well, we have a rare situation here in the state of Florida where, because of Martinez's Hispanic connection, he's got a pretty easy time of it in South Florida, and of course he has Central Florida fairly well wrapped up, and I suppose just because he's not a liberal Democrat, he'll get North Florida.
He's actually, of course, a conservative Democrat. So is Smith.
That's very much the way I am. I'm a pretty conservative Democrat. But I tell you, Martinez sounded too much like Paula Hawkins tonight. He really did. He didn't seem to make his...
Nobody sounds like Paula Hawkins.
Well, he sounds like he...
Paula Hawkins is unique.
Sound like Paula Hawkins. And that was very unnerving to think that somebody's actually trying to mimic their campaign off of hers, which I think has been a poorly run campaign from the beginning, and has probably lost her the election, even though I'm very glad to see that Bob Graham is going to be elected to the Senate, or I hope he's going to be elected.
Well, he's 11, 12 points ahead, and that's difficult to make up in, what is it now, 9 days, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's 11.
I don't really believe that rally today really changed anybody's minds. It was...
It changed your mind, you just said so.
Oh, no, I went to the rally today, and at that point in time, I was very much for Bob Martinez, and I thought he had a better command of the issues. But after seeing the debate tonight, that's when I've changed my opinion of Martinez.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I would find it very difficult to vote for Padgett, but I would find it relatively easy to vote against Martinez. And I hate to vote that way. I really hate to vote that way.
But it's the way to do it.
But with all 9 candidates, or 9 of the major candidates for governor back in the primary season, there were none of them that pleased me at all.
I had a caller who said they would vote for Paula Hawkins as a vote against Kennedy.
Yes, I know. I heard that call yesterday.
It's not that ridiculous, Bob. It really isn't. Because you're saying the same thing, essentially.
Well, okay, I will admit to you that I can kind of understand the logic. I wish that the world that we lived in wasn't that kind of a world. It did not make me happy when I heard the call, not because of Kennedy. I don't like Kennedy either, to tell you the truth. But just because the man was more concerned with who was going to get a chairmanship in the Senate than he was concerned with decent representation for the state that he lives in.
Right.
What does he get? If the Democrats take over Senate, he gets judiciary, is it?
I'm not sure what it is.
I think he gets chairman.
Foreign Affairs, Michael says.
Oh, no, come on.
But apparently if the Republicans retain the majority, Jesse Helms is talking as if he plans on giving up the agriculture chairmanship to move to foreign relations.
He won't do that.
Jesse Helms swore in his campaign that he would not give up agriculture.
He can't. He's got tobacco.
At this point. But whether or not he's going to keep it is another matter.
Oh, the tobacco farmers will set him on fire, sir.
Wish they would.
Yeah, I think it would be doing us all a favor. That's one example of a state that, although from a distance seems like it's a very progressive state, you look at them as far as electing Jesse Helms over their former excellent governor is in Jim Hunt, and I really can find no good reason why anybody in the right mind would do that.
But again, as much as I dislike Jesse Helms, and believe me, I do, I would not cast my vote for senator in Florida based upon whether or not Jesse Helms would get another position if the Republicans maintained control of the Senate.
No, that's a very, very poor reason to cast your vote. You've got to look at it in who's going to serve Florida's needs the best.
What do you do, sir, and Bob, what do you do if you really can't swallow either of two candidates? For example, I have callers calling and saying, I can't vote for Bob Graham, and I now feel I can't vote for Paula Hawkins.
What do you do? Well, I'll tell you what you do, because that's a position I found myself in. I was not going to vote for senator or governor. I was going to vote this time around. I've already sent for my absentee ballot because I procrastinated too long in re-registering up here. I was simply going to vote for casino and lottery gambling, or vote on the questions. And since I was forced to listen to those debates because they happened to, crop up in my show, I would not have listened to them otherwise. I dislike all four candidates so much. But since I was forced to listen to those debates, I will now definitely cast votes against two of them.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Well, again, I hate to vote that way. I don't like to vote that way, but I feel that strongly about those two candidates.
So those people who called me and were Republicans, I suggested that they might want to vote Republican, even though they don't like Paula Hawkins, just to try to retain a majority in the Senate. I think there's nothing wrong with that, Bob.
Well, I do. You see, I just don't like partisan politics, and I want the best people up there.
No, what else is there besides partisan politics?
Well,
I've never heard
I'm an idealist, Tim.
I've never heard of non-partisan politics.
I appreciate that, but I'm an idealist. I don't like politicians. I don't like parties. I know that
you
that's
want a
the kind
dictatorship?
Of course I don't want a dictatorship. I don't want people thinking the way I think. I have the luxury of being, a 41-year-old idealist. And as long as that's what I am, that's cool.
The 60s are finished, Bob.
No, they're coming back, Tim. They're coming back, I promise you. Start growing your hair.
Yeah.
Thank you, caller.
All right, thank you.
Clearwater, you're on the WPLP.
Yes, why is our wimp president cowering away from Syria? He promised swift retaliation against terrorists.
You want an answer from me or from Coles?
Tim.
You want an answer from me, sir? Well, all they've done at the moment is they've recalled the ambassador. But you see...
We've recalled our ambassador?
Yes.
We did? I missed that. Oh, I missed that. I apologize.
But we didn't sever diplomatic ties. We just recalled the ambassador, and that's not very strong.
What time did that news break? I did not hear that, because I do not listen to the news in here, because it's my break.
It had been announced, it was announced almost simultaneously with Margaret Thatcher's decision.
Oh, that's impossible.
It was just a matter of an hour, maybe.
Yes, but he promised swift retaliation. That's not swift retaliation.
Well, sir, there's a lot more involved between the United States and Syria than with Britain and Syria. That separation between Britain and Syria isn't very significant. It really isn't. But a separation between the United States and Syria, I suggest, is much more significant considering the Soviet presence in Syria and considering the situation in the Middle East and so on. It's a really very complex situation. I'm not trying to excuse the administration, but it's an extremely complex situation. And, you know, it's rather like the South African situation. If you cut all lines of communication, you lose any chance of influencing those people. And that would happen with Syria. We'd lose any chance whatsoever of the American hostages in the Bekaa Valley, for example. You see, Syria is our main contact. We feel that Syria might be in some control of that situation, and if we withdrew diplomatic relations, we'd lose any contact whatsoever with the Bekaa Valley. That's one of the reasons.
I'm afraid. Out on his promise there. He's afraid of Syria. He's a wimp, actually.
All right, that's your opinion. You're entitled.
Definitely.
Well, to a degree, I'm sorry to say I must agree with you, Tim. Where I have a problem.
Don't be sorry, Bob.
where I have a problem with the administration is they run around saying all of these really macho rhetorical things that they can't back up, that they never intended to back up. Consequently, you get a caller like we have on the other end of the phone here who's enraged, and rightfully so, because he believed the rhetoric. You know, he believed that we were going to move...
Well, he's not very bright.
Move any mountain and ford any river to bring the jackals to justice. That sounds really great, but at some point the people say, well, hey, when are you going to start moving the mountains and fording the rivers?
Yeah. Well...
He's all talk no action.
Well, there was action, sir, but it's not enough for you, obviously. But there was action. They did recall the ambassador.
That's nothing at all.
Okay.
Nothing at all.
Okay.
He's a wimp and a liar and a SOB.
Okay. Considering the source, sir, I'm not bothered.
Is that it, caller?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Take care. Have a pleasant weekend. 10:49, the time. We'll take another call.
That's satire.
Of course, as I said, Coles, I do basically agree with you on that particular position, and we'll take another call. This one, Reddington Beach.
I disagree with everything you say, Bob.
Okay, turn left here.
Oh, no.
What is it?
Gentleman, Jim Knowles here in the studio with me. Largo, you're on the air, WPLP.
Hey, I understand the last couple callers you had were some serious people. I'm not so serious tonight.
Okay.
Did you all, this is for you and Tim both, actually watch on TV the gubernatorial debate?
No, I listened to it on the radio, and Tim missed it altogether.
Well, you really missed something else, because both candidates have a serious problem. Starting with Mayor Martinez. The man actually looks like he's dead. Have you noticed that? The man, he looks like he's suffering from rigor mortis.
I haven't seen a dead man since the Second World War, so I'm not sure.
He may have died during WW2. I'm telling you, it's incredible. But even worse than that, Steve Padgett's got a much worse problem. Much worse problem.
Well, what's Steve's problem? We wait with bated breath.
He looks like a young Jimmy Carter.
He sounds like a young Jimmy Carter.
He looks actually like Jimmy Carter. He's got the same southern drawl, the hairdo, the same
Steve Padgett has a fat little face. It's a round face.
He has a boyish face.
It's incredible. I don't think the man's got a chance. He might be the...
He doesn't have a brother that owns a service station, I hope.
I don't know. Drinks Billy beer. But it's unbelievable. The man is almost he looks like a 35, 40-year-old Jimmy Carter. And the poor man, I feel sorry for him. Of course, I wouldn't vote for him. I'm not going to vote for him. But not for that reason. But it's incredible, the similarities, the facial similarities between him and our beloved ex-president, Jimmy Carter. It's just...
Well, who are you going to vote for?
Well, I would probably...
Bob Coons.
I'll vote for Martinez, of course, and of course I'll vote for Paula in the. Even though she was horrible in the last.
May I jump in? So why would you vote for Paula?
Okay, that's a very good question. There's a lot of people out there who's not crazy about Paula or whatever, but if Bob Graham gets elected, and as you well know that the power structure in the Senate and of course the Congress is very left wing, like the Ted Kennedy, the Joe Biden, whatever, and I feel a freshman senators such as Bob Graham, he'll get really ramrodded by them to go on a lot of issues that he says right now he will not go for, such as the SDI. He says he'll support SDI, but I'm afraid very, very strongly that
if he wants to make a speech on the Senate floor, he's got to toe the line.
Right. And you know what politicians say both.
And that's true of both parties, not
absolutely both parties. They're going to, you know, if he wants to go anywhere in the Senate, he's going to have to toe the line with Ted Kennedy. And what I'd say to the average voter out there that hasn't made his mind up one way or the other is, if you vote for Bob Graham as a vote for Paula Hawkins is a vote for either liberalism or more conservative Senate, however you want to look at it. Bob Graham will be a little bit more liberal, and of course Paula will be more conservative, and that's all there is to it, because President Reagan's crowd will be able to exert more pressure on Paula to go his way, and Ted Kennedy's crowd will exert more on the
Okay, great. Reagan's gone in 2 years, but that senator's going to remain for another 4.
Absolutely, but so will Ted Kennedy, though. That's the problem, you see. And of course, depending on how you want to vote, if you want a more liberal way, I'd vote for Graham.
But Graham is a conservative Democrat. I know that by Florida standards, he's considered to be, you know, a commie pinko.
No.
But in the real world, he is a conservative Democrat who I would dare say would not be in the least bit impressed nor inspired by the likes of Teddy Kennedy.
Would you agree, though, that all the way down the line, let's say if there's 100 issues, that because if he wants to make a speech on the Senate floor, may go against something that's a little bit of his principle, which they all do. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't, because he's a relatively young man with political ambitions. He's got to face re-election.
I disagree, Bob. I think that these guys go to the Senate or the House like knights in shining armor,
right,
ready to do battle and tilt windmills and all the rest of it. And when they get there, they find out there's an old boy system.
Well, of course there's an old boy system, but I think it would be far worse in the Congress than it would be in the Senate. There are but 100 senators.
But there's still an old boy system, and you don't get to do the things you want to do. They won't even put a bill out for you if you don't toe the party line.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, but in Paula Hawkins, you have a woman who, I believe it was Wednesday, in Miami, flew in Orrin Hatch to recommend her.
Right.
Orrin Hatch, who has a lot of ideas that, frankly, I agree with, in particular with Medicare and Social Security. In essence, he's for cutting them drastically.
He's a big wheel in the Senate.
But he's also in favor of drastically cutting Medicare and Social Security, making it pretty much of a means test.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm generalizing here, but that's in essence what it is. Time is a factor. You know, puts his arm around Paula. Paula puts her arm around him. You know, my good buddy and colleague in the Senate who's fighting for the same things I am. That's not true. It's not even close to true, unless Paula's lying publicly, and she's really in favor of these drastic cuts.
Right. Well, all I can tell you...
How can you support somebody that would stoop that low?
That's called politics, and no one plays it dirtier than the Democrats, believe me, especially the liberals in the House, and of course the Senate's no different. But it works both ways. It's like Tim says, you're going to have to somewhat, to a point, toe the party line. There's no question about it. And if Bob Graham wants to get anywhere within the Senate, if he's elected, he's going to have to side with the far left wing of that party, which, as you know, does control that Senate, and they definitely control the House on some key issues somewhere down the line. It may be an SDI, a vote, a Contra aid.
Let me point one thing out to this gentleman, Bob. He may know it. They have whips, sir, when they're going to have a vote. And do you know that in the House I'm talking about, a majority of the congressmen have to ask the whip which way to vote?
Yes.
Some of them don't even know what they're voting on.
Yes.
This is true.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
St. Petersburg, you're the last caller of the evening.
Oh, hello, Bob.
Hi.
All these wars on whether you're Democrat or Republican. Why can't we just vote for the best person?
Because we don't have one running in the state of Florida this
right,
year.
We don't. I think Tim's Paula should do a commercial for toothpaste.
She's not my Paula.
Well, Tim, we got enough of your politics in the afternoon. And one thing, when any caller says anything, speaks the truth about Reagan, you become violent. So I really...
I get out my club and beat them over the head.
You do.
Yes.
You should stop and listen once in a while. But anyway, what I wanted to talk to Bob, not you. I wanted to get back to that HRS. I think... it's always raise taxes, more money. This is ballooning. we got to go to the source of the problem. And the source of the problem is stop these welfare recipients from having all these babies. Then we won't have that problem.
And she's calling me.
Well, I speak the truth. I'm not talking to you.
No.
Maybe you.
Well, how are you going to stop all those welfare?
But we have to limit the amount of the we have to limit the amount of these babies coming around that we're having to put into. Like you mentioned, that little boy Corey in Church Island. Well, the mother was on welfare. She was sleeping with a boyfriend. She had other children. She produces a baby for us taxpayers to support in through HRS, foster homes, whatever. We got to get to the source of the problem. As long as we support them, they're going to keep having them.
You're going to provide the contraceptives?
No, let them go out and work like the rest of us taxpayers that's supporting that. Let them go out and work. She looked like a big husky woman. She could go to work. So I'm only 5'1", and I weigh 90 pounds.
Bob looks like a big husky guy, but he can't go out to work.
Shut up, Tim. I'm not talking to you.
Oh, shut up.
You Reagan lover.
Oh, you...
And I think another thing I want to say...
Carter lover.
The only reason Reagan and Gorbachev had the summit was to cover up for their mistakes in the spy exchanges, the disinformation, and the Libya. They ran from the countries so they wouldn't have to answer. And sure enough, it's all dropped. Now we're talking about the latest things, the summit, and this foolish thing that Reagan is going to put up in the air over us. So
thank you for stopping by tonight, Jen.
I enjoyed it.
We're going
to see to you guys on Monday at 7. Yeah, 7. Behave yourselves.
Listening to The Bob Lassiter Show on News Talk 57, serving Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, WPLP, Pinellas Park. Stand by for CBS News.